No real hope of things changing in Washington. The record here of the partial government shutdown, now the longest in U.S. history. We'll bring in townhall.com senior columnist Kurt Schlichter to talk about it, and universal health care activist and elected delegate to the California Democratic Party, Ryan Skolnick. Gentlemen, nice to see you. We're out here in California. Everybody in Washington's talking about this, if they're not talking about the snow that's coming here, because they deal with snow in Washington about as well as you guys deal with rain out here. Kurt, anybody care about this?
Absolutely not. And in fact, those who do care are actively for a long shutdown. Look, I'm a conservative. I don't think that the government should be doing very much at all. And a lot of these people are simply not essential and shouldn't be doing anything. The longer the shutdown goes, the better. And at the end, I think Donald Trump's going to win.
Well, I think it was Ronald Reagan. I know it was Ronald Reagan who once joked about, calling for a government snow day, and whoever didn't show up was non-essential, therefore we don't need them. But Ryan, this brings up an important point. The Democrats are really putting all of their eggs in this basket of we must reopen the government. There can't be negotiations while the government is shut down. Does that really play well with anybody who's not a government employee?
Well, if you ask Pew, it plays very well because everything is showing right now that Donald Trump is losing right now, not the Democrats. The reason that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are so emboldened, because Lord knows they compromised too much before, they're emboldened because they see that the majority of Americans don't want a wall. They don't consider this a crisis.
Well, they don't want a wall, but they want border security.
It depends on what you mean by border security. Do they want vague, nebulous ideas of border security? Sure, it sounds great. But when you talk about concrete action, nobody wants it because if you look at the facts, and most people realize this, are starting to, immigration across the southern border illegally has been at a net negative for a few years now. So the entire idea that this is a crisis is kind of a myth, and more people are waking up to that. I don't think there's any rush to compromise right now.
This is a bet I want to take. I want to see who's going to win this, Leland. I want to see if border security is a winning argument as opposed to surrender.
Kurt, in 2018, at the end of the midterms, President Trump tried to turn it to an argument of border security, and Republicans lost 40-plus seats in the House.
Well, the Republicans in the House lost. A lot of those Republicans were big supporters of the agenda that President Trump embodies. President Trump came in with a specific promise. I'm going to secure the border. And as long as
his specific promise was, I'm going to build the wall and Mexico is going to pay for it.
Well, yes, and he's going to secure the border. And there are a lot of things that we need to do. But I agree. We need a concrete solution, concrete in the form of a wall. And I think he's going to do it.
Ryan, you said that Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi have compromised too much. We now have Lindsey Graham. He'll be on with Chris Wallace tomorrow. But he has been floating this idea of a grand bargain. He's been talking about it for a long time, of DACA for the wall and some type of path to citizenship for X number of billions. Is that a compromise you're okay with them making?
I mean, if you talk to certain politicians, I'm sure, but activists to the California Democratic Party like me, we have no interest in that because now what you're doing is you're...
Well, Republican activists have no interest in that either because they call it amnesty.
Well, if you want to talk about, as a California Democratic Party delegate, what we see you doing by pushing this is weaponizing refugees and people seeking asylum against DACA recipients, which is simply immoral. Look, the reality is not only has immigration been from the southern border illegally been at a net negative, but a good number of the people who have been coming here are seeking asylum. They're not coming to try and break the law. They're trying to come and basically escape terrible situations, by the way, which if you go back to before World War I, the U.S. has been involved with creating. So the idea of a wall...
We've got so far. Kurt, how do Republicans reframe this argument? Because over the next couple of weeks, we are going to continue to see soundbite after soundbite after soundbite of federal employees who can't buy groceries, who can't buy diapers, who can't pay their electricity bill. Already the wife of a Coast Guardsman was on here saying our rainy day fund ain't going to last that long. Republicans win by just keep saying no border wall funding, no government payments?
Well, look, I think government workers who are largely Democrats ought to consult with their Democrat representatives and tell them, agree to what the president promised. Right. Agree to border security. Agree to defending this country. And no DACA amnesty. If you are an illegal alien, go home. Right. There's my compromise. Obey the law.
Well, I think we just heard what the activists on both sides think about compromise on this one. We'll see if Washington can compromise. Normally they can compromise and agree to spend more money. So
well, yeah.
that happens all the time.
They're
Gentlemen,
good at that.
thanks a lot.